Hey everyone, welcome to Friday Sefer Hamitzvot. So it's day number 6. And today we're going to do a few positive commandments. The first one is, it's the third mitzvah, and it is the mitzvah to love God. This is based on the pasuk, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, to love your God. Now, similarly to the other one where the mitzvah is to believe in Hashem. What does that mean? So practically, we're commanded to know Hashem. So here, how can you command somebody to love anybody, let alone love Hashem? And here, the answer is, what's the actual commandment? To meditate, to contemplate, to think about Hashem, and think about all the gifts He has given you, given us, given the world. Rambam, not here, but he highlights somewhere else where the almost straightforward thing to do is go outside, look at nature, look at all the beautiful things around us, look at the world that Hashem created. And that should, in a healthy person, elicit a feeling of love towards Hashem. When you think about all the things that He's done for us, that He will, there's so many things to be grateful for, that's when you feel a love of Hashem. Right? When you're meditating, you're creating positive energy. This creates a feeling of ecstasy, and therefore you want to connect to Him. Because what's a result of loving Him? What's the pasuk in V'ahavta? V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, love God, b'chol levavcha, with all your heart. That eventually it says so that you should do the mitzvahs, because when you love Hashem, you're going to be excited, and therefore that will lead to you doing mitzvahs. Okay. Okay, now the next step of this, and it seems like this is included in the mitzvah of loving Hashem, that if you really love Hashem, you're going to want to share that love. So part of this mitzvah of loving Hashem is sharing that love with other people. Because if you love Hashem, it's like, imagine you hear the most amazing piece of music, or you read the most amazing book, or you see the most gorgeous building, the most amazing piece of artwork. Anyone you care about, you're going to want them to know about it. I heard this amazing song. I want you to hear this song too. So when you love Hashem, when you see his greatness and you're so excited about it, part and parcel of the wholeness of that mitzvah is sharing that love with others. And we see this clearly from the person who is called the lover of God. This is Avram. What did he dedicate his entire life to? Spreading the idea that there's a Hashem and that we should love Hashem, that we should serve Him. That was literally his life's calling. That's why he had the desert in the tent in the desert, and everything that he did was all about bringing people closer to Hashem, to the awareness of Hashem and the love of Hashem. So it's loving Hashem and helping other people love Hashem and know about it. Okay, the fourth mitzvah is, I have like different paperwork here. Okay. In short, it's the mitzvah to revere God, or what we loosely say as fear, but I want to describe what this is. And this is based on the mitzvah, Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. It says in Devarim that your God you should fear. Okay, so what does it mean that we should fear God? Unfortunately, there's the common conception that there's a big guy up there, he's very scary, and if you do something wrong, he's going to bang you with a stick. That is not what fearing God means. Fear, we'll use a different word instead, okay? We're talking about awe or reverence. When you see something that's great or amazing or spellbinding, you're going to act a certain way, okay? So think about, you meet somebody famous, lahavdil, not to compare, but you meet somebody famous, somebody that you really admire. When you see them, you're not going to be like, hey dude, what's up? And like, you're going to care about how you look. You're going to care about how you speak. You're going to try to put on a certain persona. So you have to love Hashem, or we're commanded to love Hashem because it's a huge part of our relationship. But it's not supposed to be a casual relationship. It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be love coupled with reverence. God is God. And yes, He does have the power to punish, which shouldn't make us feel fearful, but just realizing the wholesomeness of who Hashem is and how we're supposed to relate to Him. And that's why it shouldn't be like, hey God, I love you. That's all that matters, right? Like, I love you. No, if you have to love Hashem, you also have to revere and treat Him with utmost respect. Hashem, I love you and I'm grateful, and you want me to do these things? I absolutely will. And it's not even a question. So it's very, very important to have love and reverence. They go together, and they are the foundations of all the other mitzvahs, because we do certain things because we love Hashem, and we don't do certain things because we have a sense of reverence and composure. because of who Hashem is. Let me see if there's anything I want to add to this. Oh, so there's one thing I want to highlight where the Gemara talks about how when somebody says God's name fully, like the full name, which we don't know nowadays, the full Shem HaMeforash in public, they get killed for this. This is capital punishment. And in general, we have this on a smaller scale, right? We don't just throw out Hashem's name. You only say it in a certain context. You say it in the context of prayer, of a bracha, of even in learning, there's only certain times when you say Hashem's full name, if you're saying the entire pasuk. This is a very simple understanding of the idea of reverence, right? Somebody like my friend or my kid, I'm just going to call their name, no problem. You know, Deanie, Miriam, hey, what's up? I revere you guys, but you're not God. Whereas somebody that you really respect, or you're supposed to have a certain relationship with, right? Let's think of grandparents, because in America, parents, unfortunately, we can't even understand this necessarily. But your grandparents, they're Bubby, they're Zidi, they're Saba, they're Safta. Your boss is Mr., is Mrs. So Hashem, it's just a simple way of understanding the reverence, because Hashem, you don't just say, you know, hey God, hey this. God it doesn't really count as much because it's not a real name, but we don't say Adai or Shah, only in the context of when it's appropriate. That's a pure example of the reverence that we have towards Hashem. Okay, 9th mitzvah, which is the next one. Like we said, it doesn't go in the order of the way they're written because we're coinciding with what Rambam is teaching us in 3 chapters. So the 9th mitzvah, which we're going to do today, is sanctifying Hashem's name, also known as Kiddush Hashem. The pasuk that this is based on in Vayikra is V'nikdashti v'soch b'nei Yisrael. I should be holied. I should be made. I should be sanctified. Okay, so what does this mean? Right, we all know the word Kiddush Hashem. What does it mean? So really what it means is publicizing your faith in Hashem in public, right? I could do amazing things at home, and that's critical and important for my relationship with Hashem. But in order to sanctify it, other people have to know about Hashem and my faith in him and my commitment to him. And where would this get challenged? If somebody is embarrassed of their faith, or if there's danger, if something can happen to them, if they're going to get criticized, if it's emotionally dangerous, or if it's physically dangerous, if there's rules against it, if you're going to get chastised, if there's going to be pain, even on I always think about people that went to the mikvah in very uncomfortable circumstances. It's not that somebody would, and sometimes they were going to be, their life was threatened because it was against the law, but in other times it was literally physically uncomfortable for whatever reason. And fun fact, the Alter Rebbe, who was, 260 years ago, was the first one that came up with the way that according to Jewish law, a mikvah can be heated, that the waters can actually be heated. That means up to that point, unless it was baking in the sun, a woman went into a cold mikvah. So even just on that small scale of understanding that the commitment to the mitzvah, no matter what, this is Mesiras Nefesh. This is what sanctifying Hashem's name is, but specifically in public. Now, there's a fascinating rule that's going to explain this even more. If it's a time, what we call Gzeres Shmad, where basically the government, the people in charge of us don't want us to do any mitzvah, we're obligated to give up our lives for even the tiniest thing. Even, I think the example the Gemara gives is the color of the shoelace. If they say a Jew can't wear red shoelaces, you should wear red shoelaces. Red was a bad example. But the the idea there is if you are told because you're Jewish, you're not allowed to act Jewish as a blanket rule, you have to give up your life for everything, okay? However, we know that in general circumstances, or if it's kind of on an individual level, if a guy is being a shmendrik and just wants to make you crazy and he holds a gun to your head and he says, work on Shabbos or I'm going to shoot you, and it has nothing to do with the general government policy, then of course you're not giving up your life for that. But it's very important to know that when we're pressed, because it's an overall rule, then we do attempt to give up our life for that. And that's the ultimate, we always sanctify Hashem's name. Hopefully we won't get killed for it. But the ultimate sanctification of Hashem's name is when you do something for Hashem, when you do a mitzvah, when you show your faith and commitment to Hashem, regardless of what the consequences may be. So this also applies to when the consequences are other things, when there's embarrassment, when there's pain, when there's humiliation, when there's hurt. And just to round this up, of course, we know that in individual circumstances, you are allowed to give up your life You are allowed to break any mitzvah in order to save your own life. It's actually very, very important, except for the 3 mitzvahs that you're not allowed to, and those are murder, adultery, and idolatry. Those things, even if they're just the motion and you don't really believe in them, that you always have to give up your life for. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. To review, we talked about loving Hashem, we talked about revering Hashem, and we talked about sanctifying God's name in public. Have a great Shabbos. Bye, everybody.